afternoon. We're pleased to have a Secretary for Housing and Urban Development, Sean Donovan, who comes from this administration, so he doesn't need a lot of nice things said about him. But Secretary for Health and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius, is really somebody that we've come to know more modern day, and both of these secretaries and their agencies have really made a big difference, and I'm going to ask them to talk. And then we have Congresswoman Maloney with us. Welcome. Let me briefly update you on the progress we've made over the past 24 hours and what we're doing to address the very serious and urgent challenges that New Yorkers continue to face. The most pressing of these is the cold weather that we're experiencing. This morning I was again in the Rockaways, specifically in Far Rockaway and also in Broad Channel, and I spoke with many people who are worried and frustrated and cold. There is no power there and temperatures are dropping. Even those who have generators are having a hard time getting fuel. And today, in partnership with the federal government, we took a number of steps to help people stay warm. We've opened heating centers in areas that still don't have power and distributing blankets to residents who remain in their homes. There is also, you should know, free fuel for generators available in some locations, and I'll touch on that in a minute. At Hamel Houses, a public housing development in the Rockaways, I saw a community center that suffered serious damage, and when I spoke to some of the residents, they said they have no friends or family to stay with, and I assured them that we have shelters with food, water, and heat where they could stay. Many did not want to go, and I understand that, but it's cold, and it really is critical that people stay warm, especially the elderly. If you are elderly or have an infant under a year old or have heart disease or medical conditions, you really have to get to a warm place. It may not be your home. It may not be in the most convenient place or the most convenient design. We're trying to respond to an unprecedented emergency, but we are committed to making sure that everybody can have a roof over their head and food in their stomachs and deal with the cold safely. So please, I know sometimes people are reticent to take advantage of services. This is, the cold really is something that is dangerous. If you find yourself shivering uncontrollably or if you see someone who is disoriented, these are the symptoms of hypothermia, and anyone who with them needs really to get to a warm place very quickly. We have been knocking on doors in public housing developments for several days to see if people need help. We are trying to proactively reach out. We have plenty of passive ways of getting information out, but sometimes you have to really get on the phone, knock on the door, slip something under the door, and we have been doing that for a number of days now. As a matter of fact, that's the way we started to try to get everybody to evacuate Zone A areas. Today we begin urging residents who may be older or infirmed to move to a shelter. We have about 1,000 NYC service volunteers out today doing that, and I expect there will be even more out tomorrow. There are buses at the city's 5 disaster assistance centers that will help people get to shelters this evening, and also at Seward Park High School in Manhattan. 2 of the pickup locations are on Staten Island, 2 are on the Rockaways, and 1 is at a center that I saw yesterday at Coney Island. They are located in the parking lot at the Mission of the Immaculate Virgin at Mount Loretto, at 6581 Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, Millerfield parking lot at 600 New Dorp Lane on Staten Island, the parking lot in the Walbaums at 112-15 Beach Channel Drive in Far Rockaway, the Fort Tilden Park parking lot on Beach Channel Boulevard near Breezy Point on the Rockaways, and the one I saw yesterday in the parking lot at MCU Park, the home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, at 1904 Surf Avenue in Coney Island. We're putting out flyers reminding people of these locations and the availability of buses. The police department, you should know, is also using patrol car loudspeakers to urge people to go to the heating shelters and telling them how to get there. We have 25,000 blankets on the way to shelters in the Rockaways, Coney Island, and on Staten Island right now. And I want to thank all of the volunteers who are pitching in to help with that. Excuse me, it really means a lot, and it shows, I think, what a big heart New Yorkers have. This cold weather presents another set of dangers as well, especially people using gas ranges and candles to heat and light their homes. Con Ed has made significant progress in restoring power in the city. However, residents in the Rockaways get their power from the Long Island Power Authority. And in our view, LIPA, as it's called, has not acted aggressively enough. We realize that LIPA has outages throughout Long Island, but the Rockaways were the hardest hit by the storm, and when it comes to prioritizing resources, we think they should be first in line. So far, that has not appeared to be the case, and that is just not acceptable. There was extensive sand and saltwater infiltration into the network there, and we're urging LIPA to put more resources on the job. They have, as of a few minutes ago, not given us a clear timetable to when to expect power to be restored, but they have indicated that it could take up to 2 weeks, and that is certainly not acceptable. It is going to get colder over the next couple of weeks. This morning I told the residents of the Rockaways that I would push LIPA to do more faster, and this afternoon our staff did meet with LIPA to offer any support we can and to urge them to put more resources into restoring service to the Rockaways at the earliest possible date. When I walked the Rockaway Beach Boulevard this morning, the streets were passable, but there was clearly an enormous number of badly damaged homes and stores, a lot of debris and sand and mud and totaled cars. When I walked Broad Channel, there were a lot of boats from 2 blocks away, actually in the middle of the road. You saw cars piled on top of each other. The waves had just picked them up and put them down on top of another car. Every year I walk in the St. Patrick's Day Parade down Rockaway Beach Boulevard, and it really is hard to believe that it is the same place. That's a road at St. Patrick's Day that's clean and a lot of smiling, happy people who love living in New York, and today it is covered with debris, and the people there need our help. In Broad Channel, which also suffered heavy damage, the sanitation department was out this morning clearing the streets with front-end loaders. There were lots of downed trees, plenty of debris, and I spoke with people there, and I mentioned how they mentioned again and again how great the sanitation department has been, and I passed that along to a few of the sanitation workers, along with my thanks for their hard work over this past week. All the people in the city have been working hard, and they don't do it for the money. They do it because they want to make a difference. That's what city employees work for the city for, and giving them some recognition and respect goes an awful long ways to us to say thank you, and also to just keep them focused when they're tired and to go that extra mile. So I would urge everybody, when you see somebody that's really making a difference in the city, policemen, firemen, sanitation workers, school teachers struggling to get to school and help our kids, just saying thank you for what you do is sort of a nice thing to do. There have been 2 additional fatalities related to Hurricane Sandy overnight, and 1 just a few minutes ago. The total now stands at something like 41 or 42. I think it's 42 now. An earlier count by the NYPD was 43, but the medical examiner has determined that some of the deaths on the list were not attributable to the storm. As recovery operations by our first responders continue, hopefully we will not find any more. I didn't think we would, and yet just a little while ago we did find 1 more body. It's 42 people whose families are going to have to cope with a terrible loss, and I think all of us should make sure they and their families are in our prayers. There is something that we can do, however, to make sure there are no more tragedies. When you're without power, please don't use candles to light your home near windows, near curtains. Don't go to bed leaving the candles going. Burning through the night, you can maybe not wake up. In recent days, the fire department has responded to 6 fires started by candles, including 1 on Staten Island last night, which caused an 80-year-old man to be hospitalized for smoke inhalation. We've also seen and read reports about people turning on gas ranges and ovens to heat their home. Please don't. It can cause fires, and also the gases that come out of these things are lethal. A lot of New Yorkers are using generators. You just can't use these indoors or even in a garage. That can result in carbon monoxide poisoning. And don't connect them directly to your home wiring or to an electric outlet in your home or garage. You have to have an electrician that can take a look and see if it's safe. If you go and try to connect a generator, or Con Ed turns on the power to a system that's been damaged by salt water, there's a very good chance a fire can start. And you might not be able to get out. Don't overload your generators and don't store the gasoline that powers them indoors. Now, daylight saving time ends tonight, I guess it is. Remember to check the batteries on your smoke detector and carbon monoxide detectors. It could save the life of you and the life of your family members. Helping people keep warm without power on these chilly nights has also become a focus of the food distribution centers that were operating in communities without electric power. These sites give food and bottled water distribution to residents of hard-hit communities who are still without electrical power. And today, in addition to pre-prepared meals that have been, many have also been distributing blankets and flashlight batteries and baby supplies such as disposable diapers and baby formula, and that will continue tomorrow. There are also volunteers going door to door throughout these areas, and they're trying to make sure anyone who's homebound is okay and to give them food, water, and other supplies. As of today, there are 16 sites. 15 provide each person with up to 3 meals and water, and the one on Grand Street on the Lower East Side offers only water. Please bring your own bags to carry these items. Many of the centers, which are staffed by National Guard members, New York City service volunteers, and the staffs of the Salvation Army, remained open well past the 5 p.m. time that they had planned to close. You should know that nobody was turned, who came for food and water was turned away. The sites have been open today since 1 are scheduled to close at 5. Some of the sites in Lower Manhattan will not be open on Sunday because with power restored, their work is done, and we're going to redirect volunteers and resources from that site to other parts of the city that are still without power. Those other places, I said before, will be open 1 to 5. I did want to thank everyone who's volunteered for this effort and also all those who have supported it with cash donations. The Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City has raised $12 million donated by more than 3,500 people to support these relief efforts. The money continues to come in. Please go to the website at nyc.gov or call 311 for details about how you can give. And I also want to thank Verizon for their efforts to restore cell service in the Rockaways and other parts of the city, as well as all the private sector companies and nonprofit organizations who have stepped forward. And AT&T should also be commended. I talked about what they were doing yesterday. As I said, Con Ed has made major progress in restoring power. Yesterday afternoon, there were some 460,000 customers without power in our city. That's down to about 194,000, so 460,000 down to 194,000. More than 25,000 of them are LIPA customers in the Rockaways. While power to most of Manhattan has been restored, there are still tens of thousands of customers without steam power and therefore without heat. And with the onset of cold weather, we encourage everyone needing heat to visit one of our heating centers or check into shelter. The city has also provided emergency generators to hospitals, nursing homes, public housing developments, and other facilities throughout the system. There is mass transit running in all 5 boroughs, I'm happy to say, including the Staten Island Railroad, which began partial service today at noon. It will be running at normal service and time for Monday morning's commute, and as you know, the Staten Island Ferry started operating normal schedule starting yesterday. Almost all MTA subway service has been restored, around 80% of the system. The MTA has said that that should be up to 90% by tomorrow. Most subway lines are fully operational, including lines running under the East River between Brooklyn and Manhattan, as well as between Queens and Manhattan. There are a couple of subway lines that remain affected, and that's partially because of 2 East River subway tunnels that still have some flooding, specifically the Montague Tunnel, which serves the NR line, and the 14th Street Tunnel, which serves NR and L. And in coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers and the city and state transportation workers, we have actively been pumping water out of those tunnels, as well as the other tunnels still affected by flooding. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, Queens Midtown Tunnel, Jersey City Path Train Tunnel, and Battery Exchange Tunnel. Work is going around the clock. We will keep you posted, but I did want to point out that because the MTA did take proactive preparations before the storm and moved their equipment out of harm's way, as soon as we got the tunnels pumped out, checked the rails and the signaling, they could go right back to work. If they had not done that, you could be out of service for a very long period of time. It just goes to show how, I think, well-run the MTA is and forward-thinking, and that's exactly what they should have done, and we are the beneficiaries for that. And we should certainly point out that the cooperation between the city and the state, between everybody that the governor is lucky enough to work for and everybody that I'm lucky enough to work for, I think the city and the region is being well served. I know that there are people listening today who may have sat in their cars for hours to buy gasoline. I know it's frustrating, and police officers had to be posted at service stations to keep order. I ask everybody to be patient, and I can also say that this should be much less of a problem in the coming days, both because the subways are now back in service and fewer people will drive, and because of several other developments. As it has been reported earlier today, National Guard units are providing motorists and people needing fuel for generators with free gasoline at 4 armories in our city and also at the armory in Freeport on Long Island. There is a 10-gallon limit per vehicle. The locations in New York City are the Queens Armory at 93-05 160th Street in Jamaica, the Bronx Armory at 10 West 195th Street, the Brooklyn Armory at 1579 Bedford Avenue, and the Staten Island Elizabeth Armory at 321 Manor Road. Last night, the Buckeye Pipeline, the interstate gasoline transmission line serving New York City, pushed 100,000 barrels of fuel into our city, the first major influx since Sandy struck. The supply is continuing to flow, I'm happy to say, and will begin finding its way to retailers. One of the big problems we've had is that while gasoline is a fuel, you can't get it out of the ground and into your car unless there's another kind of fuel that's called electricity to drive the pumps. And as electricity comes back, the pumps start working, and you'll have more options to find gasoline. As I have cautioned, it may take a few days before you see the real effects of this additional supply at your neighborhood service station, but there should be considerably less congestion on roads from here on out. And once again, like everything else, there's lots of different people that were involved in getting the refineries going again, the pipeline going again, the harbor. Coast Guard played a big part. Secretary Napolitano was helpful in getting the Jones Act suspended, so we have some more ships on their way with gasoline, and I'm optimistic that in a couple of days the shortage will disappear and relatively quickly, but it just does take a time to get the fuel from where it starts to where we need it. On Monday, public schools for nearly 1 million students will be open. To put this in perspective, to educate our 1.1 million students, there are 1,750 schools in the city. They're in roughly 1,400 different buildings. The vast majority of them will be open tomorrow, on Monday, day after tomorrow. It is just terribly important that our kids get back to school. They've missed a week of school, and this is their future, and very hard to catch up to. We do know that there'll be 65 schools that we won't be able to open. They include 8 schools where emergency shelters are located, as well as 57 schools in 40 buildings that sustained real damage during the storm. On Wednesday, when classes resume after Tuesday, Election Day, remember schools are closed on Election Day Tuesday. So we're talking about opening on Monday for most schools. I'll tell you how to find out which ones in a second. No school on Tuesday, and then Wednesday. And we think that a lot of the schools that we cannot open on Monday, we will be able to open on Wednesday. There are about 178 schools still without power. We hope that many of them will have power and be open for classes on Monday, so I can't give you a number, but we think it will be significantly less than that. Parents and students can get status updates about them and about all the schools by going to the Department of Education's webpage at nyc.gov, by calling 311, by texting the words NYC Schools to 877-877. Robocalls, which is us actually reaching out, have already started to parents. Principals and parent coordinators are reaching out directly to their parent communities. We are running full-page ads in several of Monday's daily papers with school closure information, and I also urge parents to follow the news on radio, television, and other sources. It is difficult to find out if it's your school for your kid. We're doing everything we can to reach out to you, but it would be helpful if you sort of reached into us, particularly if you are in an area where your child goes to a school where you know it's near the coastline and there's a possibility that there was damage done during the hurricane. We expect 96% of the school buses to be running on Monday morning, although please bear in mind that because of downed trees or other storm debris on the streets, there may be some delays in making student pickups. There also may be backup drivers filling in, and with students going to different schools, sometimes where we've had to move people out of one school, the routes that we have established with great thought sometimes don't work, and it'll take a little while. So if you're late, stranded, delayed, we are trying our best. Our objective is to get as much done as we can, even if it does require us to adjust as we go along. The city's Department of Education is also, you should know, calling up a reserve of substitute teachers to make sure that all classrooms are covered. Sometimes we're going to have to move students from one school to another school that isn't their first school. It can go across from one county to another. It can go down the street. It can go into another building. It's not an optimal situation, but when you have this number of schools that you can't use, we don't have that kind of vacant schools. The good news is lots of people want to go to our schools, and we're always struggling, no matter how fast we build classrooms. We don't have enough, so if some of those are out of order or unavailable, it just puts more stress on the system. We will have a seat for every child. Classrooms may be big and they may not be in exactly the right places, but you should know that the whole school system, the principals and teachers, both in the schools where we're going to send students from and the schools that are going to receive those students, have all been working together, and it is gratifying to see the cooperation that we're getting, and I will say that the Michael Mulgrew and the Teachers Union have been very helpful and cooperative as well. There are almost 55,000 buildings in Zone A that our buildings department still has to inspect. So far, we've been to more than 8,500 of them. That's the good news. And the good news, better news, is that 80% of those buildings are safe to inhabit. But we want to check every building if there was damage that you can walk in. If you have a red sticker on your building that says uninhabitable, does not mean that the building's going to get ripped down or that you will rip it down. It just means that you can't live in that or be in that until some real structural failings are remediated. We just don't want any more accidents. Yellow means you can go in with great caution. Green means you're okay. And when you walk down the streets and neighborhoods where we've been, it's very clear every building has these very colorful signs that you see, and so you really know where you stand. As I've said all along, our tap water is completely safe to drink. A little bit of extra chlorine in it just to make sure. That's not the case for Breezy Point. That's the only place because of damage to the water pipes there, and we're making bottled water available. And you could, I suppose, boil water in Breezy Point, but they don't have the electricity or the fuel to do it. So just stick to, if you live in Breezy Point, stick to bottled water for a time, and we'll work as hard as we can on the pipes. Before taking questions, let me just say that earlier today I visited the construction site on West 57th Street where there is this damaged crane. They went out on the crane early this morning with a careful plan that we'd spent 2 days to make sure we can do this safely. With their hands, they rotated the crane to bring the boom now against the building, and they have since tethered it to the building, so there's no danger of it falling. If everything goes according to plan, and we still have a little more work to do, we hope to reopen West 57th Street to traffic tonight. I talked with the buildings department staff working there, including Assistant Commissioner Michael Alacha. And let me say something about Michael. He lives in the Rockaways. His house was flooded and his family has had to move in with relatives, but that has not kept him away from his duty to keep the rest of us safe. He's been working day and night, including climbing 54 flights of stairs to get to the top of the building on West 57th Street during the worst of the storm in 80-mile-an-hour winds on Monday night. He had firefighters tie ropes to his waist and that of another engineer, Timothy Lynch, so they could get close to the damaged boom to inspect it. He deserves our thanks and praise, and so do all the other city workers who worked around the clock for the past week at the Department of Parks and Sanitation, Buildings, Environmental Protection, and other human services agencies. And that also goes for everyone volunteering to get us through Hurricane Sandy and begin our recovery as well. Now, we've got cold weather ahead of us. The forecast is that temperatures won't get out of the 40s for several days, and another storm, thankfully not a tropical storm, will be headed our way next week. We're on top of that situation. We're New Yorkers. We're going to get through it. We want to get as many people into shelter as we can and give them some semblance of a life while we work on some of the buildings, which will take a very long time. I don't think anybody should think that we're out of the woods or that we will get everybody's house back up or even the big NYCHER buildings or some office buildings or private apartment buildings up. You're talking about, in many cases, months. Some will get done in weeks. Some will get done in days. But there are some with big damage, and there's just a limited amount of resources: electricians, carpenters, plumbers, boilermakers. Each one of these buildings is separate, and we're going to have to get people who are really knowledgeable to go through it. Let me turn things over to Secretary Sebelius. As I said before, she has become a close friend of the administration and of New York City's. She has worked very hard for us in a lot of things, and I just personally wanted to thank her and her staff. Madam Secretary, will you?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to be with my colleague, Sean Donovan, today. And first, I bring you all greetings from the President. Secretary Donovan and I started this morning with the President and a call with governors from 3 affected states, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, as well as a number of borough presidents and mayors from the New Jersey area. And we heard directly from a number of leaders about the challenges. I have to tell you, Mr. Mayor, as a former governor of a state that saw no shortage of natural disasters, I am so impressed and encouraged by what I see happening here, which is exactly, I think, what one would hope would happen with the incredible collaboration and cooperation, local, state, federal, private sector, volunteers coming together. I'm always dismayed by the tragedy that natural disaster brings, and so inspired by people's generosity and willingness to step up and help one another. And it's exactly what I've seen in your city today. I've been able to spend some time with some of your great health leaders, with Dr. Shaw, the New York State Health Commissioner, with Dr. Farley, the City Health Commissioner, Deputy Mayor Linda Gibbs. With me is Assistant Secretary in Health and Human Services, Dr. Nicole Lurie, who is our lead on emergency preparedness and response. She was on the ground yesterday. She's here today. She will be going to New Jersey tomorrow. I know that in our lens, we're trying to work carefully, standing behind your folks, to make sure that people are safe and secure. Medically fragile patients are out of hospitals or taken care of, and the hospitals have been able to absorb the overflow so far. New Yorkers in nursing homes and assisted home livings are now in various shelters. I was able to visit New York Downtown Hospital and see they're now back up and running with a limited bed capacity, but they hope as steam comes their way that they will be able to further open and deal with patients in the very lower downtown area. We then went to Park Slope Armory in Brooklyn, a special medical needs shelter, and saw some amazing work. We have our disaster management assistance teams on the ground, but people are there having come out of nursing homes and assisted living facilities. There are about 383 patients there now. There were 500 or more, but they are being well cared for, taken care of. And I think the challenge that Secretary Donovan and I are eager to work with your folks on is some of these folks are going to need longer-term supported living going forward, and we want to stand behind you. We're working closely with Secretary Donovan at the Department of Education to make sure that your plans on schools, again, we can help and support, and at Health and Human Services, the Head Start and Early Head Start program and child care centers are part of our portfolio. So we know that's an important part not only of keeping kids safe and secure, but making sure that parents can go back to work. So we're eager to stand behind you on that. We have about 700 Health and Human Services personnel on the ground right now, with 13 disaster medical assistance teams in the area. The Center for Disease Control officers are also embedded in health departments. And I would say, Mr. Mayor, you gave wonderful health tips. The only additional thing that I might add is as people regain their power, there always is a danger of contaminated food, and the general rule is when in doubt, throw it out, because there can be a number of issues that rise with food. We're here for the duration. We know, as you do, that this is not going to be a short-term recovery, but that you are assured you have an ongoing partner with this administration and Health and Human Services. We would urge people to, if they haven't taken advantage of it yet, to register with FEMA. I know our colleague, Secretary Napolitano, was here yesterday with Craig Fugate, but the 1-800-566-FEMA is the line, 1-800-566-FEMA. It can begin the flow of assistance directly to individuals and to business owners. There's about $85 million that's already been deposited in people's personal bank accounts as a result of that, so it gives folks some flexibility as they begin to recover and regroup in their families. I will leave it there, Mr. Mayor, but we stand by ready to work with your colleagues. And do you want to? Right. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. I should. I thought the Secretary's right, and you should emphasize that when in doubt, throw it out. I know food's expensive. People don't have extra money, but getting sick or worse from contaminated food is just not worth it. That's more expensive in terms of human lives and suffering as well as dollars. The same thing, just make sure if you touch the water that's in the street or in your basement, be sure you wash your hands with a good strong soap before you touch food. That water can easily be contaminated with sewage and who knows what else that's floated in from the street, and we just don't need any more pain and suffering. Our next speaker is well known to all of us. We sent him to Washington not because we were happy about it, but because he wanted to do for this country what he did for New York so ably, and the country's a great beneficiary of it, although I think I told you couldn't leave till you found somebody better, and I think you did, but that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the kind introduction, and more importantly, I appreciate your great leadership in a time of such challenge in New York City. I'll echo my colleague Kathleen Sebelius in saying that the President, every member of his cabinet, every member of our administration stand behind the work that's being done here in the city. We also stand behind the work that the governor and everyone at the state level is doing, and I want to assure New Yorkers that we will be here for the long term. This is not, as the mayor said, a disaster that the city will, everyone will recover from overnight. And so not only was the president and FEMA Administrator Fugate, they were in New Jersey earlier this week. Transportation Secretary LaHood was there as well yesterday. Homeland Security Secretary Napolitano was here in New York. Karen Mills is in Connecticut today. And we will keep coming back to this city and this region until this problem, these challenges are solved. I also have to say thank you to the remarkable spirit of the residents of New York City and the volunteers. I also was in the Rockaways today in Breezy Point, visiting public housing residents and others. I saw volunteer firefighters who had opened a collection point for clothes for their neighbors to be able to come and keep warm, to find clothes if they were all ruined in their homes. I met college students who had traveled to New York City from many states away to shovel sand out of the streets in the Rockaways, and so many others that are responding this way. And I will just say, on a very personal note, as a native New Yorker, that this is a tragedy that has particular meaning to me, to my family that is still here. It was tragic in some ways for me to see today a brand new housing development that we worked so hard to build, that I remember cutting the ribbon on in the Rockaways with the mayor, to see that abandoned today. And so this is personal for me, but for everyone in this administration. and we will be here for the long term. I also want to say that our job in supporting the mayor, the governor, and all the responders working on this is to make sure, first and foremost, that we speed every possible type of assistance that we can with no red tape, with no bureaucracy. The president has directed every one of us that any call we get from a local official or local responder gets returned within 15 minutes, and if it doesn't, they should call the president directly. And we will make sure that we live by that to get help here. Let me talk for just a few minutes about the work that we're doing on housing. Kathleen mentioned, but I will say again, that it is absolutely critical that families reach out to FEMA for assistance, call the number that you heard, the 800 number, or visit a FEMA center. In the Rockaways, many do not have phone service, but we now have 2 centers, one in Breezy Point, one in the Rockaways, FEMA centers that are open. I visited one of those today. And as of 1:30 a.m. this morning, we already had 117,000 people who had registered with FEMA. They'd already received about $85 million in assistance. And I'm sure that as we're almost at the end of the day today, that number is already much higher. And that is a critical, critical lifeline. As of last night, the federal government and the state signed an agreement that allows that FEMA assistance to be used in hotels and motels so that you will have a warm alternative, as the mayor said, if you do not have power in your home. We are also working very hard with our partners at FEMA to identify housing units, apartments, and homes across the region that can be used for longer-term housing. To find those units, go to hud.gov/Sandy and click on the FEMA housing portal. If you are going to be out of your home for some time, register with FEMA, get the assistance that you can from them to use to pay rent in some other place while you are rebuilding at home. We are also working very closely with the Housing Authority here, visited the Hamel houses that the mayor discussed just a moment ago, earlier today, and saw the major work that is going to be necessary at some of the NYCHA developments around the city. We are working closely, hand in hand, to get power, dewatering, and other equipment there, and to speed whatever other assistance, food, water, and other things there. We are also working closely with homeowners. We have over 80,000 FHA-insured mortgages for single-family homeowners in this region. We have already granted 90-day foreclosure relief. No lender can foreclose on an FHA mortgage during this period because we want to make sure that homeowners aren't victimized twice by this tragedy. We are also already working on rebuilding. We will be meeting just after this press conference with the senior leadership here to talk about longer-term housing solutions. We do have mortgage insurance available through FHA for those homeowners who are already starting to think about rebuilding so that they can get the capital that they need to rebuild their homes in addition to the FEMA assistance or other insurance that they may have. Finally, I want to urge homeowners out there to be careful as they are going through this process. We've seen in Katrina and many other disasters that homeowners take the FEMA assistance that they get and they use it to pay down their mortgages instead of using it directly to start to rebuild their homes. I would urge homeowners, make sure that you're prioritizing the rebuilding with those FEMA funds. I would also urge homeowners to be careful about contractor scams. The vast majority of businesses are legitimate and doing the right thing, but there are those who would prey on the victims of disasters like these. Go to the HUD website, find a HUD-approved housing counselor who can help you find the assistance that you need, whether it's a contractor, a lender, or others. Finally, we will also continue to work with the mayor and his team and the governor to ensure that we provide every flexibility in rebuilding and resources that are for rebuilding. The primary vehicle that the federal government has used for long-term rebuilding is through the Community Development Block Grant. which is a HUD program. We will be working to take existing resources, make them as flexible as possible, direct them to where they're needed for long-term rebuilding. At the same time, we are going to work closely as Congress considers any further resources to make sure that they're as flexible and effective as possible here in New York and across the region. Again, Mayor, thank you to my colleague Kathleen Sebelius, who has been a wonderful, wonderful partner in so many ways. We are here for the long term as partners with you, Mr. Mayor, and with this city. Thank you.
Sean, thank you, and I did want to once again thank Congresswoman Maloney for all of the work, all of the help we get from Washington. Let me try to summarize today's announcement for our Spanish-speaking New Yorkers. Ha bajado la temperatura de esta abriendo centros de abrigo para las personas que todavía no tienen electricidad. Queremos ofrecer en lugar cálido con agua y comida para pasar esta noche fría. La ciudad va a distribuir cobijas en las áreas sin electricidad para encontrar una lista de sitios de distribución de agua, comida o comidas. Visite el 9yc.gov o llame el 311. And with that, we'll be happy to take a few questions. We have to get back to work, so I don't want to make it too long. Yes, sir.
A point of clarification on the warming centers. I understand those are not open at night after 6 p.m. for most of those. Is that right? So
no, I don't think that's the warming centers.
Warming centers not open overnight. The shelters are.
The shelters are, not the warming centers.
Get people to the
Yes,
emergency shelters.
yes, that's it. So it's just a little bit confusing. There's so many things going on at the same time. Yes, Ms.
There's 5 locations where they're giving out free gas right now in the trucks. You just said that people should go to them, but the state and the National Guard are telling people to please stay away. We've had reports of mass chaos at the sites, police saying that they're not in control, people trying to gouge and resell the gas.
It's one of the problems is when you have lots of different agencies, it takes a little while for them to get coordinated, which is one of the reasons it's always you want to, if you had the time, you would work together and decide who's going to do what. Sometimes you just don't have the time to do that, so we're trying to adjust. But just have some patience. The people working there, the National Guard, the federal people, they're all trying to do the right thing. And people just have to understand we're not going to get to everybody on everything immediately. Somebody this morning screamed at me that they couldn't get coffee since yesterday. I'm sorry, but just, we've got to set our priorities and you've got to do everything. Somebody else screamed, well, there's nothing there. Well, 1 block away, there was a service giving out that. And so a lot of this is, you got to understand people's frustration. They're cold, they're tired, they've lost a lot. And sometimes we all, get a little bit over anxious, if you will. Yes, miss?
Have you had any reports of hypothermia-related hospital?
Not that I know of, but keep in mind it hasn't gotten that cold. Right now it's starting to really get cold. Sean, you want to?
Just briefly on the gas situation here, I want to mention that in addition to the steps that the mayor talked about, the president has been very focused on the issue. The mayor mentioned the Jones Act, which allows more ships to come to this area to deliver fuel. In addition to that, our military has started moving 12 million gallons of gas, 10 million gallons of diesel fuel into the area. We've also released, for the first time in history, from the heating oil from the New England Reserve to make sure that there is not a shortage of heating oil as well. And so we will continue to work very closely. One of the challenges is obviously the supply, that shortage, and these actions will be very, very important in making sure that over the coming days there is an increased supply of gas available.
In response also to your hypothermia question, I said none. Our health commissioner says it's 0. So that's the same. Yes. Sir.
Can you explain?
But that doesn't mean, as I said before, it wasn't that cold during the day compared to now and going overnight. That's when the real dangers are. Yes, sir.
On the marathon, can you explain?
Well, let's just stick to this for the time being, and we'll come back. I'll be happy to take a question. This is a little bit more important. We're trying to talk about people's getting their lives together again. Yes, miss?
The Board of Elections is seemingly having a lot.
Same thing. Can we come back to, is there any questions about the services? Yes, miss?
Is there
What do you think is the biggest challenge the city faces so far in terms of transportation? I know the MTA has gotten a lot of it back online, but there's still some problems. What is the biggest one?
Well, it's getting better very rapidly. They'll have 90% of the subways up by tomorrow. If they can get one or two of the tunnels that are closed open, that will help. But the bottom line is the MTA has done a great job. Mass transit's the way to go. Don't drive because you'll just get stuck in traffic. And if you have to drive, our police department now doesn't have to staff every one of those corners where we didn't have signals because of no electricity. So as these things come back, our resources, more is available and we can redeploy them. In some cases, you just can't use more people. You just take some time to work things through and to get your procedures correct. And you can't do everything all at once. And our issue is right now taking care of the short-term needs of clothing and blankets and food and water. We have a very big issue of longer term. What do you do for people whose buildings won't be available for a long time? That's the next step in the recovery process, and we're doing some planning, but our first priority is the safety of people today in the short term. We'll take your question now, I'm sorry. And then we'll go to Mrs. Sutton. Oh, sorry, wait, another question on topic?
Do you have any additional details on the 2 new deaths?
I don't know which two. We found one today, I thought, but no, I don't. Find out. Yes, I'm sorry.
So hearing from the Board of Elections that they're concerned, they're going to have to set up poll sites outside, and they're concerned about getting generators and also having trouble getting enough gas to actually power the trucks to get the...
We all have the same problems, and we have to work through it. It's an agency that, hopefully their staff knows what they're doing. They've known for a week now that, or 6 days, that we were going to have some problems. And hopefully they had backup plans anyways. That's their responsibility. We've offered help, but we, as last time I checked, still haven't gotten lists of where they really need help, although that may have come in the last hour. But before, we were told we had the list, but we could never find it. We'll be happy to help. We don't run the Board of Elections, which is the frustrating thing, and their responsibility is to make sure that everybody on Tuesday can exercise the franchise, which is the essence of what America and democracy is all about. Now, Mr. Seifert, I'm sorry.
Could you just explain what happened between early Friday when the marathon was on and later Friday when it was canceled? And also, what would you say to some of the runners saying they wish it was canceled earlier so they didn't have to?
Well, I wish that we didn't have a hurricane and that we could have had a great event. So, it's a should have, would have, and could have isn't something that I have to I deal with. What simply happened was that it became a source of dissension, and we don't need that right now. And hopefully next year we'll have a great event where people can come to the city and enjoy what the city has to offer and compete and participate. And the spirit of the race is to bring people together. When it became a divisive issue, I just made the decision that it should not go on. The good news is that the supplies for the marathon have been donated to communities that need them, something like 600 medical blankets delivered directly to residents in Midland Beach by volunteers who went door to door with them, and some 10,000 cases of water were sent to our central distribution center at Floyd Bennett Field. Other supplies are being sent out now. So, the situation changes, and it's a shame that it had to happen, but we've got to do the right thing at each time, and I'm looking forward, I'm sure all those runners are, to coming back next year. Let me remind you one more time. Cold, people need some help. You have to have patience, which is easy for those of us who are providing aid to say, and not so easy if you're one of those people that needs aid. But we are working together, and I couldn't be more proud of the state and city people that have helped us, but particularly the city workers who I watched again this morning. They are going the extra mile and then some, and quite honestly, that's what they should do, and that's what we'd expect them to do. We are New Yorkers, and we are Americans. Thank you very much.